Hey everybody, Damon at Black Warrior Lures. I wanted to tell you a little bit about this rod. It's really an experiment. I consider myself a little bit of a mad scientist. I come up with crazy ideas. I want to try them out. And this is one of those crazy ideas. This is an 8-foot fly rod. River runs through it stuff. 8-foot fiberglass, E-glass fly rod with a bait casting reel on it. Why did I do this? Because I'm a mad scientist. I'm a mad scientist. That's why I did it. I can tell you the advantages and disadvantages of it. One, I love a long limber rod. Just reminds me of cane pole fishing as a kid. Fly rods are very long, very limber. If I did this again, I'd probably use a steelhead rod. It would be better, but I'll explain that later. Here's one of the things. I'm a tall guy, and I have never found a rod that has a long enough handle on it. Never, ever, ever. So when I built my own rod, I said, I'm going to measure from the palm of my hand to the back of my elbow, and that's, where I'm going to put the reel seat, so that I have plenty of leverage to fight with, palming the reel. I can put it under my arm, and it's not so close under my arm that it's uncomfortable. I put it right under my arm because it's the reel comes just behind my elbow here. So it's just so comfortable. Well, dadgummit, I haven't measured it, but I have measured it. The numbers are in the house on a spreadsheet. Again, you're a mad scientist, but that's almost 2 feet. Well, if all you have is a 6-foot 6-inch rod, or say a 6-foot rod, and 2 feet are taken up with just a handle, you don't have much rod out there to fish with. That's just stupid, right? It doesn't work. And the reason they do that is because the tournaments and stuff won't allow you to have certain length rods. But I'm not a tournament fisherman. I fish to catch fish. I can use whatever the freak I want. So what I decided to do is get a long 8-foot fly rod and experiment with it. I love the handle. I love how deep that handle is. And that's still, if that's 2 feet, that still gives me 6 foot out that way, right, to fish with. Now, what are the disadvantages of doing this? Well, one of the things that the main thing about a fly rod is that the guides are on the bottom, just like on a spinning rod or a float rod. With a bait casting rod, the guides are often on the top. Well, how do you rectify that? Well, what I did was a spiral wrap. One guide here at the top, the second guide is under the bottom, and this is discolored because I leave it outside and neglect it all the time. But then I have a bumper guide right here that transitions it from the top to the bottom, so that the guides, it's called a spiral wrap or an acid wrap, it goes straight under here, so that all the guides are under the bottom, just like on the fly rod. And just use bigger eyes, number 8 eyes here, or bait casting eyes down here. I colored the tip, and so that's how you got it. That's how you get it to work. Now, let's talk about the disadvantages of this. This is why fly rods make poor bait casters. I don't want to hook myself, but this is a light power rod, but a medium action. In other words, it's a noodle rod. Essentially, the whole rod bends. The rod doesn't have any backbone, right? Fly rods are designed to lob the line around in the air, and then you just lay the line down gently onto the water. Bait casting reels are meant to be just thrown out there, right? I'll show you. And you need what they call a fast tip, where the rod bends on the first 20-30% of the rod here. And that's about all that bends, and the rest of it is just pure backbone to really help cast. This rod just simply doesn't have the backbone to cast. Now, I've had to modify my cast, and just sort of settle with shorter casts. But because a fly rod motion is all about the acceleration to a stop, whereas this is more about just, you just got a rock here on the end and you're just slinging it out there. So I've had to sort of modify my cast. I'm getting fairly decent distance, but I bird nest an awful lot even when I have things adjusted properly. You know, peel back the magnetic drive here, peel back this one to where it just barely moves, and then peel it, then put your magnetic back halfway. That's a halfway decent distance, but I've had to modify my cast. And when I'm coming forward, see, that you can see that how that bends. You see how that whole rod bends? That whole rod bends, almost like a bow, you know. I can feel this entire rod flexing, and that's just not, it's just not transmitting the energy to that thing there the way it ought to. Now I've practiced and practiced with it, and I've learned more and more about it, and I've modified my casting stroke to where that it's halfway between almost like a fly cast and a spin cast. I just eliminated the whip, and I come forward gradually, and at the point where I would stop the motion, I just let go of the thing, and the momentum carries it on out. But I have to add a lot of power. I mean, I have to just about force it and man force it to get out there. But I can't whip it. You know, sorry about the herky jerk, but if I whip it out there, it'll just bird nest on you every single time. But if it's a forward motion, powerful, because I have that action here, you know, it goes, it'll cast. And I don't want to get my thing caught up in the woods, and I don't want to break my bobber there. But anyway, that's why fly rods make poor bait casters. And if you're wanting a long limber rod for bait casting, what I would recommend, and this is what I'm going to do next, is to get a salmon steelhead rod that is medium power but with a fast tip. Medium power just simply means it takes medium, I guess, amount of weight for it to bend or whatever. But when it does bend, only the tip will bend in terms of the fast action. So a mag taper or a medium taper, medium power is great, but then a fast tip. This is a slow tip, as it were, because the whole rod bends, and it's a light power. So what I need is, I would recommend a medium power with a fast tip of some kind. And and again, if it's not at least an 8-foot rod, I ain't gonna fool with it. And the only rod you can find that are gonna cast with a bait caster that are medium power and a light tip are gonna be like a salmon rod or a steelhead rod. Something those typically come in graphite, so they're light, and they're usually about 8.5 foot long, sometimes 9 foot long, and that'll be a better match for this reel. But just a mad scientist experiment. Learned a lot. Hope this helps somebody out there who's just building rods and wondering if a fly rod would make a good bait caster. Just like anything in life, there's pluses and minuses, there's trade-offs, there's things to understand about what makes it work and why it should work, and what you're going to gain and what you're going to lose as a result of it. And Damon at Black Warrior Lures, check it out. I will talk to you guys later.